What is happening, fishers, and welcome to
Throwback
Thursday. I'm super excited tonight, Don, because Don, from somewhere, from someone, you're going to have to tell us who, has the Penn JIGMASTER 500 of all reels, guys.
I'm not sure where the reel came from. We
That's
stole it
fine.
from Neil just now.
Stolen from Neil just now. Anyway, guys, the JIGMASTER 500, I think, hands down, the most well-known, if you're from the 80s, 90s, the most well-known reel out there.
Some folks loved them.
Some
Some
folks
folks hated them. We'll see where they go.
And then also, not
and we had
for
one of our
less,
good customers, another CONOFLEX rod. This one got the CONOFLEX branding on, so we know what brand it is.
100%. And
Apparently also about 60 years old.
it was quite a, sorry, we're not used to feeling a rod that's butt goes down like that. It's normally quite balanced when you hold it, yeah?
Heavy on the butt. Should we start with the rod?
Let's start off the rod and get to the exciting, the most exciting
Okay.
bit last.
Now, again, those CONOFLEX UK brand, I think we mentioned last
Correct.
time. What makes them distinctive is the spiral wrap that they put over the fiberglass. So it's a fiberglass inner and like a spiral wrap tape, which gave it a bit more, I think, shock protection and a bit more flex in the action. Lovely pier rod, like a 2-3 ounce type setup. I know the customer, I'm not going to insult, he says, I'm welcome to have this rod. I've actually got so many one-piece rods I never fish with anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask nicely, and you're welcome to say yes or no. But I know Neil here and our Vincent branch, we've got a number of anglers that are to some degree subsistence.
Yeah.
They're fishing the short pier and that kind of thing. And I think you could make someone very happy.
Yeah. Put some food on the table for someone.
Put some food on the table for someone. And if it's okay with you, you can let us know and I'll WhatsApp you later. But I think something like this can still catch fish.
Correct.
And it's certainly, I think a lot of us who've got stuff that we don't necessarily use too often anymore. You haven't fished the rod for 5 years.
You're not going to use it again.
It's time to kind of pass it on.
This is a specialized rod if you're
and this
going
is something your
overseas,
dad bought for you, your
Correct.
first rod or something like that. But I think a lot of, and I know he claims this to be 60 years old. I recall the logo in the 80s like that. So
well, that was 40 years ago.
Quite
that was 40
old.
something years. That was 45 years ago, Don.
No, but I was a teenager. Hey? I mean, I was a teenager. So there's a lot of flex in that, dude. You can whippy this thing a long way. And as I say, butts are heavier, thick.
Correct. Metal winch.
Metal winch.
It's like a brass, and this one is brass.
Yeah, pretty much the same idea. Hey? And solid. Hey? So cool rod.
Beautiful. Listen, I grew up fishing with these, obviously, hand-me-downs at that time.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Beautiful bluefish rods. And I used to have, this one's a bit longer, my shorter ones. Still today, I like to use them for cob in the river. The action phenomenal action for cob.
Lekker river rod, eh? But then start talking to us.
Okay, guys.
That is the popular reel to
okay, so guys, we got none other than the Penn JIGMASTER 500. It's probably the third reel I owned. I owned a 180. Then I got given a 501. And then when I was about 11 years old, I got given my first 500, guys. Beautiful, beautiful reel, guys. Some of my favorite aspects of it, you could service the thing with a butter knife. I know it doesn't sound right, but you could open your reel up, butter knife, 4 screws on the side, take it apart. The Jeep, the old Jeep Defender of fishing reels, easy to service. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to pull it apart.
Your memory is worse than mine is, dude.
Yeah, well,
because this is quite a unique one we've got here. Does apply to the 4 screws.
Yes.
Most of us, I forget the series, JIGMASTER 500A, had a single screw.
That's the one.
And you just turned and.
That's exactly what I thought about. Because earlier I saw that, and so it was the one thumb screw.
This is a slightly different series,
model,
which makes things quite fun.
Yeah.
But these were the reels that made Penn such a name brand
100%.
worldwide. I mean, I think this was probably the top-selling pen in the world.
Oh, hands down.
Probably, if you look at today, still one of the top-selling reels in the world.
Yeah.
And I started in a 35, which is a little brown worky.
Yes, I know.
Seaboy, I think they called it.
Seaboy, yeah.
Steel spool was quite challenging to cast. Then we progressed to these. These we're using on like typically 12 to about a 13-foot-6 rod.
You're 13-foot-6 in those years, correct.
2 ounce was a bit challenging, but a 3-4 ounce they cast beautifully. Obviously all mono there. It had a Bakelite spool, like the 49A.
And they brought some aluminium spools out in a couple of years after that.
The later years.
Yeah.
The funny thing is the 500A JIGMASTER were a last stock new.
Yeah.
Was discontinued last year.
Really?
They went black and they went for an aluminium spool, but they ran at I think $9.99 until last year.
Yeah.
And we're talking about from the 50s, 60s, all the way through.
It was revolutionized conventional reels, I think, with hands down.
What made them super functionality, guys, these things were indestructible.
No bells and whistles.
No bells and whistles. I think 4-to-1 ratio, which was not super quick, not super slow, but You could just fish this thing.
You could winch
fish
anything. You could just winch it.
And it winch. Look, it didn't have tons
Tons
of
of power,
pulling
yeah,
power.
power, yeah.
I was more of
Get a bit
I
of
was more of
slipping.
a 49A.
You get a bit of slippage.
Yeah. Now, I wanted my fish to come this way.
Yeah.
That's why I went for a 49A, which had a lot more torque.
Torque, correct. Yeah.
But tell us about your casting experiences in these. I'll tell you mine afterwards.
Okay, guys, listen. I didn't find this reel the easiest out of all the pens to cast. I think because I was 12 years old and very small hands and a bit probably heavy for me at that time. Fantastic reel to cast, except when you got it wrong, guys. There's some. You used to get the craziest bird nest you've seen in your life. So I used to fish minimum of 12.5 kg line on this thing, because anything less, if I got a bunch, I was
15 pound was never going to happen.
It was normally at 7. I think it was 17 and a half maximum I was fishing, and that was 17 kg maximum I was fishing on that thing. And as Don mentioned earlier, anything thinner than 12.5 kilo, if you got a bunch, the line went down the side of the spool, and that is your fishing done. That is your fishing done for the day.
Yeah.
Unless you had the other boykie you could screw and pop in like that.
But even then, it is a nightmare.
But phenomenal casting reel, guys. When the spool starts, when you got the spool spinning on this thing, it spun for days.
Oh, yeah.
We used to abuse them a bit. So you're supposed to wet the nylon a bit to burn your fingers. We used to end up dunking ours in the sea because you got lazy. And the reels,
if it got rough, you could do that as well.
The reels never gave up, and every now and again you got this gritty, sandy sound. You loosen the spool up. So I remember all the reels are this side now. Loosen the spool up, throw it in the water, rinse it out a bit, tighten it up again, and
off you go.
And carry on fishing.
And we're talking about the salt water, not the fresh water.
Yeah, the salt water. But caught many fish on this reel in my life, guys. So I fished this probably from the 90s to the late 2000s. Probably got about 10 or 15 years fishing out of my JIGMASTERs. This one's still in not bad condition for its age.
Okay, yeah. To get interesting here, a lot of guys are pen collectors. I don't know if any of you are. What is different about this particular one, let's get the specs on. Let me get the speckies on. Forgive me a second. I see. Well, you got to inspect sometimes. Yeah. You know, the eyes are getting a wee bit old, almost as old as the reel. What is different about this boykie, it hasn't got the quick release mechanism. I see it's also a JIGMASTER 500S.
Yes.
It's normally a 500A we saw locally as well.
Yes.
And then an L sometimes as well. And I see this one made in the USA. Where I think a lot of them went to Taiwan at one stage.
Great.
And I think also, if I'm not mistaken, I recall
there have been holes.
Some had holes.
There was some difference.
So it's a little bit of a different to the rest of the one. Yeah, see, someone got a price on it, dude. You can still buy this thing. Okay.
I'd like to go check out after we're done here to see what actually that is, what the actual difference is.
I've got an interesting story. My brother used to have this Afrikaner friend, Umfani.
Yeah.
I think Umfani is no longer with us. But he was a truck driver. He was a character. And we got a double mouth. We had bought him this reel at Oxford Cash and Carry. Kind of the old-fashioned cash converters before they even thought of that idea. And down Oxford Street, you used to drive down Oxford Street in East London. And they had this big wooden fishing reel on top of the thing.
I remember that. I remember that.
And
yes, it was a big reel.
You'd go in there and you'd kind of negotiate the best price you could. Or you put it on a lay-by. And we never bought new reels in those days. I mean, that was like a dream, dude. And anyhow, my boot organized this one for Mfani. We put some nice 12 kg Maxima on for him. I paid about 100, 150 bucks for it, whatever it was in those days. And we go to Double Mouth on a mission now. He was always a pop hoyer. So we were teaching him on a cast and multiplier. Shows him a bit. Go on the rocks there in the flat edges of Double Mouth. Gooi, bunch. I don't know whether he got the bunch loose and tried again. Actually, now that I can recall, I don't think so. He literally cut his line, unscrewed the reel off the reel seat, and went into the gully. I turned to my boot. I'm a young 12, 13-year-old guy. I said, "Can I swim for it?" And my boot said, "Nah, you better not."
Leave it where it is.
So my personal experiences casting a 2 ounce into the wind with these things caused many of these grey hairs. So
you're saying that. I don't know how many times, guys. Never take this advice. I'd throw and on a long cast, get a bunch near the end of my thing. Can't get the bunch out. Just fish over the bunch for the rest of the fish over the bunch. Just do shorter casts for the rest of the day. I hope you don't look anything big.
You know, the funny thing is they threw really well, like brilliantly well. But because the spools were quite light, particularly if you overfilled them.
Yes.
And more than any other reel I fished with, I mean, like Shimano's never had the issue. As it got near the end, like as soon as your thinker's thought about slowing down, it just started fluffing.
Quick, correct.
And and you're trying to.
You know it's too late.
No, these reels, when you cast them, you didn't watch your sinker.
Yeah.
You watched your and you were driving it. And some might say, "Oh, you're supposed to brake on the side of the spool." Not a damn.
No.
You burn that nylon. I think
Or
most,
it's
I
yeah.
think most of us struggle at the
Your
bank. At the bank things nowadays.
calluses.
Our fingerprints have taken a bit of a knocking on the thumb.
I remember you used to wet the line, but if you got a good throw, you ran out of wet
You
line.
dry.
You had dry line
straight away. But I used to play 100 meter plus on the forehand of these things.
Throw. When you got it right, you got it right.
Yeah, no, when you got it right. When you ended up with that much line on, you did really well.
Almost had like a sound it used to make when you used to come with.
Okay. Now, some guys tell stories about the Bakelite spools cracking and that.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen on an everyday basis.
Yeah.
I do fondly recall another story, Port Alfred, on the pier there at the mouth, on the right-hand one. And there was this oak and he had a live mullet or shad out, whatever. And he hooked into a dolphin. We're screaming at the oak to cut his line. And he's like hanging on. And literally, the spool shattered. But then it went all the way through his guards as well.
Cleaned his rod up.
So he had a broken reel, broken rod.
Oh, no, shame.
I think, and that happened within about 60 seconds. And it's just scream,
Gone. Game over.
Never seen that happen again. It was like, so try and never hook it off.
No.
Particularly with the
No, I don't
JIGMASTER.
think anyone wants to. Anyone
just try to snap your line. Just tighten up and snap,
Snap,
dude.
yeah.
Stay logical sometimes. But awesome. I like the old stuff. It's bringing back. It's bringing back those memories. And last thing, we were getting Andrew excited here. The modern oaks love the sounds of their little Shimano, Saragosas. Put some on it, and many of us have got a thing where you'd have these out in your live mullets at Port St. John's, and you're fishing at night, fire's burning, you're half asleep, and you get that. Yeah, I think that sound to most of our generation.
One more time. Oh, there we go. You hit the pitch right the second time.
If it doesn't stop, whoa, baby.
Yeah, hit the pitch right the second time.
Adrenaline guy starts going through you. Even now, dude.
Oh, geez, I don't even know how to do the left wind right. It's been a while, guys. But also, I'm not on a rod here, so it's not making it that easy.
Oh, come on, excuses.
I don't know. My finger doesn't do that anymore.
Yeah. And we're just chatting to one of our other customers now. Apparently, he's got a whole selection of old Penns and ambassadors. And it's cool going through this stuff.
No, it's absolutely... It brings back such memories and so nostalgic.
You know, but also if you've got like $200-300 to buy a reel, you can find something like this still.
And you'll still get 40 years out of it.
And you'll still get 20-30 years out of it.
100%.
And there's no excuses not to fish oaks.
No.
I think that's the whole point of this exercise. Throw back, but also surprisingly still practical.
100%. As Don says, this reel was still available up until last year.
Yeah.
Shows you.
So
shows you, yes.
Yeah, they've got a following worldwide. And I'm sure this is actually quite a collector's item. We probably sell it quite well on Amazon. Yeah. So any bids, hook us up and we'll give you a price.
There's still a lot of guys in the States that use this for very light game fish. You know what I mean? Catching dorado and things like that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
On their charters and things like that. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed that little back part of history and present and past.
Yeah, gladly tell us your JIGMASTER stories. Because I'm sure we've got many casting stories about them.
If you've got any... Even secondly, if you've got any photos, old photos with you and a JIGMASTER and a fish, please send them through. I'd love to see that.
Or JIGMASTER in a bunch. Would be cool to see
that's great as well. With you a pair of scissors. Anyway, guys, so thanks for joining us for Throwback Thursday. Until next week, we'll see you all soon. Cheers.